Hi, and welcome to Forging Fitness, your resource for learning how to exercise at home or on the go. My name is Leslie Brooke, and I am a full-time stay-at-home mom, wife, and trainer. I homeschool our 2 kids and privately train clients in my in-home personal training studio. I love to teach people how to take control of their fitness by building routines that can be done at home or on the go. As a mom who juggles multiple roles and details of the lives of each of our family members, I understand the necessity of flexible workouts that can be squeezed in anytime or anywhere. Join me if you want to learn all about individual exercises and how to put them to work on your terms. I'll also include other health and nutrition hacks that will help you reach your goals in spite of the crazy life happening all around you. Fitness is forged with consistency and determination. Together, we can build the tools you need to take charge of your health. Okay guys, today I have for you 4 exercises that are going to help you build back your balance. Now balance is critical because it's going to keep you from being injured throughout your movements during the day, but it's also going to help you establish a firm foundation for doing some more of the functional exercises using kettlebells and dumbbells and other kinds of free weights. So let's get started with one exercise, and I will take you through the progressions for each one. Let's start out with a single leg balance. So single leg balance is the easiest one to throw in during any part of your day. It's simply balancing on one leg. Now my tip for you here is to not touch your feet or knees together, because that's kind of a cheater method and you will get, it actually makes it a little bit easier. So if you're standing on one leg, just balance, put your foot out somewhere where it's not tempted to touch the other leg. Now, if you'd like to make this harder, one way to do it is just to add movement. So the progression from here, just balancing on one leg, is to start moving your arms, maybe your leg. So an example would be to twist around your core. I like this one because it builds flexibility through your spine and strengthens your core as well. Another option is to extend your arms further away from you. Make it a little bit harder. And to mix it up a little bit, you can move your arms overhead, you can move them in and out, you can hold something and move that something around. And another great option is to move your floating leg. So if you're balancing on one leg, you can take the other leg out, move it to the front, to the back. So basically the starting point is just to stand on one leg and then see how much of your body you can move without falling. If you'd like to progress from there, you can hold something even heavier still. Now this is a 6-pound medicine ball that I have here. You can use dumbbells, you can hold a gallon of water, a 32-ounce bottle of water, some books, stack some books and see if you can keep them stacked. Whatever you'd like to do to make it a little bit more fun and interesting. So we'll start with the single leg balance and move through all the same progressions I showed you earlier. The closer your weighted object is to your body, the less challenging it will be. The further away, the more challenging it'll be. So you see here for me, now the wobbles are starting to happen, and that's a good thing. We like wobbles because your muscles are going to respond to it, it's going to strengthen them, and it's going to prevent injury in your ankles, knees, and hips. And it'll also give you a nice strong set of muscles around all of those parts as well. Now if you'd like to continue the challenge, you can incorporate resistance bands. So what I've done here is I have a resistance band with 2 handles. I looped one through the other right around this firm handle here on my treadmill. You can do this around a wide variety of objects as long as it's firm when you pull on it. And then you're going to step to the side and balance on the leg that is the furthest away from where your anchor point is. So my anchor point is on my right side. I'm going to balance on my left leg. And from here, I'm just going to twist kind of the same range of motion I did earlier, but now I'm having to pull against something that is pulling me in another direction, and my muscles are having to respond to that and get stronger. So that's another great way to incorporate bands if you have them at home as well. All right, that's a standing leg balance. Now let's move on to exercise number 2. It is very similar to the single leg balance, but now we're going to incorporate more movement in the upper body. We're going to do a single leg deadlift. So it sets up pretty similar to the single leg balance. You don't want your legs touching each other. You've got a leg floating, and now I'm going to stack my hands and reach down the line of my leg to the ground, touch it. Now I'm going to squeeze through the back of my leg, called the hamstring muscle, through my glute muscles, and I'm going to keep standing until my hips are lined over my foot and my shoulders are lined over my hips. So a technique here is to draw in your low abs, pull your shoulders away from your ears, and keep your back nice and flat. Now, if you need to bend your knee during this movement, that is okay. So I'm going to show you straight leg here. If you're a little bit more flexible, this one will be okay for you. But deadlifts can be done straight or bent knee. So here's an example of a bent knee deadlift. Now, one thing you don't want to do during any sort of a deadlift is overextend your hips. So once you're done with the movement, you've got a flat back here. We're pulling through the bottom of our foot to squeeze through our hamstrings and through our glutes. I'm going to stack my hips right over my ankle, shoulders right over my hips, and that's where I stop. There's no need to continue forward. So just get them nice and straight. Head lined up with shoulders, shoulders with hip, hip with ankle, and you've landed right in a proper posture. Now, if you want to step it up from there, always, you can add weight. So I've got my handy dandy 6-pound ball here again, and I'm going to tip at the hip, draw in my abs, shoulders are away from my ears, I have a flat back. Tipping forward, I'm going to really spread my toes wide here as I'm starting to pull back through using my hamstring and my glutes, and stack the hips. From here, if you'd like to make it a little bit harder, one option is to keep your floating leg level with your working leg. So I'm going to switch legs here. I've done a lot of work on my left. I'm going to switch to my right. The floating leg can stay lined up with the working leg. And now I'm having to push my hips behind me a lot more, really having to work on that flexibility as well as my balance. So from the side, looks like this. So that floating leg is not going back behind me, and what that's doing is it's taking away my counterbalance. So it makes it just a little bit harder, just like so. Now, we know that holding a weight makes things harder, but also moving the weight away from your body will make it harder as well. So this is where I incorporate a move that I call an oil drill movement. We're going to stand on one leg, make it a little bit harder by tipping over at the hip. And this time, instead of standing straight up, I'm going to bring the weight out in front of me, all the way up over my head, and then bring the weight to my chest. And we'll do it again. So that is your hamstring single leg deadlift progression. Now let's move on to exercise number 3. For exercise number 3, we're going to do a stationary lunge. Stationary means that we're going to stay in one place. We're not moving forwards and backwards or side to side or doing walking lunges. We're just going to sit in one place. So to set up for your lunge, you want to imagine you're standing on a narrow set of railroad tracks. And you want to maintain this width between your feet as you drag one foot back behind you. So what that's going to do is it's going to give you a really strong foundation for standing. if I were to take this foot and line it up behind my front foot, not only does that move my hips out of alignment, but it's also giving me a kind of a high wire sensation where the balance is much more difficult. That is not a proper lunge. We want to keep feet about hip width apart. Then we're going to push our hips forward, roll our shoulders back, and imagine that we have a pole that goes right down through the center of our head, through our body, and connects to the ground. And all we can do is move up and down that pole as we bend both of our knees and press up through our front heel. So hips stay forward, shoulders stay back, head stays up and down. From the side it looks like this: hips forward, shoulders back, back knee bends, right back up. What you don't want to do, what we're trying to accomplish by imagining the pole going through our center of our bodies, is we're trying to prevent a forward motion like this. So when you're moving through a range of motion like this, you're mostly relying on these muscles in your quads to do all the work for you. But you're actually a lot stronger through your glutes and your hamstrings during a lunge if you do it properly. So put all of your weight into your heel, hips are forward, shoulders back, and we're going to drop straight down. And now I'm activating my hamstrings and my glutes, and my front muscle right over my knee is not having to do as much work, or it's certainly not doing all the work by itself. In the bottom of my lunge, I'm able to wiggle my toes in the front, and that's an indication that I'm putting all of my weight into my heels. One last technique thing on this: as you're dropping down into your lunge, make sure your knee tracks straight over your toes. You don't want to go in front of your toes, but you also don't want it to fall in, okay? So from top down, you might feel like you're pushing that knee out to the side just a little bit to keep it lined up. All right, but Leslie, how do we progress? How do we make this harder? Well, let me help you with that. Always, we can add some more movement. So we're going to stay in our lunge position here, hips forward, shoulders back. We're going to drop down, but this time as we stand up, how about we bring a knee to the front? Step back, drop down, bring the knee to the front. So now I'm having to stabilize in two different ranges of motion. Just like that. And if you'd like to make it harder, add a weight. So you can do a couple of things here. You can hold at the bottom of your lunge and twist, or you can twist at the top of your lunge and then swap down. You can push the weight away from you. You can push the weight up. Now, if you're moving the weight away from you as you drop down, it's going to be a lot harder than if you lunge first and then push the weight. So this is much easier than this option. Okay, so give them both a try, see how you like that. If you are really struggling with lunges and this is a hard range of motion for you, feel free to just put your hand up against a wall or against a chair, something that will make you feel a little bit more stable. Even if you need to lean into it for a little while, that's a better way to get started than not doing lunges at all. So the good thing about lunges is not only will they help your balance, but they're going to strengthen the muscles a lot more than something like a single leg balance. All right, before we move on to our very last exercise, I would like to encourage you to click the subscribe button and ring the little bell if you are enjoying learning how to exercise at home or on the go. Okay, so for our very final exercise, we're going to do a single leg hop. This is a lot like the single leg balance, so if you've mastered this move and you feel like you're ready to take it to another level, then we're going to add in a hopping motion. Now, the good thing about hopping is that you're going to experience some impact, and impact will build your bone density. So if you're walking, if you're running, if you're jump roping, if you're doing anything where your feet leave the ground and then impact on the ground again, you're going to rebuild that bone density. And that's something that all of us need, especially women, as we are over 30 and continuing to age. So with that said, let's move on to our single leg hop. Just like the single leg balance, we don't want our floating leg touching the other leg. And we'll start just by being stationary right in the same spot, bend through the knee, and hop in one spot. Now, one thing that's important is that you always gain your stability before you hop again. So if you hop and you're kind of like all over the place, make sure you stabilize before you hop again. This will be important as we then begin to add forward and directional movement. So the progression from here is once you've mastered the single leg up and down hop, we're going to move forward and backwards. So forward, stabilize, back, and stabilize. And you'll really feel your ankles, knees, and hips kind of doing a lot of work here, and that's really good. Don't be discouraged by that. Once you've mastered forward and back, we're going to hop from side to side. All these directional changes are going to be so good for your ankles, knees, and hips. And finally, once you've mastered that, we can start changing the direction of your foot. So right now I'm facing forward, and once I jump, I'm going to turn my foot at an angle, let my body follow it, and then I want to land back where I started. And of course, we want to do both sides. There we go. And if you would like to increase and progress from there, a great tool is to perhaps maybe get a cup, set it down on the ground, and shoot for reaching that cup. And as you get better and better at a certain distance, perhaps move that cup further out and see how far backwards or see how far forwards you can jump, and can you return backwards as well. And that goes for all directions. And then from there, if you want to take it up one more level, you can jump up and onto something. But that will come into another video for you guys later. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you learning about these 4 exercises that can build back balance. There's a whole world of exercises that can build back balance. This is a great series to start with if you're new to exercising, or if you just want to be able to throw it in anytime during the day, anywhere, wherever you are. So thanks for listening. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys.